Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Live Wire. Before we get started, I want to make note that this is the first Live Wire that's on the newly revamped Inside UNC Charlotte website. So if you're following Inside UNC Charlotte this week, I hope you noticed some nice changes. The University Communications team did a great job in giving Inside UNC Charlotte a facelift, and we're glad that we're on your screen right now with another edition of Inside UNC Charlotte. And today we're going to have a couple conversations about some aspects of the future here at UNC Charlotte and the future in Charlotte itself. I'm starting with a conversation about one of the programs that's part of the university's Data Science and Business Analytics initiative. I know that most of you who are watching are already familiar with that. That is the university's game-changing initiative that's really building the future here in Charlotte, and the university is centrally involved, and much more to come just seconds away. And we're going to follow that up with a conversation about the university's executive education program. Those of you watching us live, you're going to see those back to back, and as you see them on YouTube, they are going to be produced as separate segments. And if you're watching this segment on YouTube, just another footnote, all of the live wire programs make their way onto YouTube in a matter of hours in some cases. So check out some of those other programs and some of the plethora of videos that we produce here at UNC Charlotte about the great things happening here at the university. Our guest right now talking about the Health Informatics Professional Science Master's Program, and just a corner of the big data world here at UNC Charlotte. Joining us are Josh Hertel, who is the Program Director for the Health Informatics, PSM as we call it in shorthand, and then one of our current and outstanding students, Paul Prae, and we're going to hear a good bit more about his story. Josh, let's get started with you and set us straight about our terminology. Professional Science Masters, part of universities in our shorthand, but the DSBA program. Okay. What are we talking about? How does it all fit together?
We have many hats that we wear at this university. So I am Program Director for the Health Informatics Program, but for the DSBA, for the DSBA PSM, that particular program is looking at big data in the context of retail, in the context of finance, energy. Across the scope, we see these tremendous opportunities, these pools of information that are lapping up at businesses' feet. They don't realize the value. We're trying to train students who can reach out, identify opportunities in that. There's a lot of ways to look at it. It's almost this wall of noise that is coming towards businesses across any sector. For the DSBA, we're trying to find those people who can identify the music, if that's not getting too poetic, but the music that's within that noise, to identify what information can come out of that to help look for trends, patterns, efficiencies in those business models, new ways to serve customers, new ways to solve problems. And so as a PSM, as a Professional Science Master's, the program really focuses in on applied research. So while we are a Research One institution and we do amazing research at this institution, we have a number of partners across this region who have a need for not technicians, but people who understand the practical application of this research. You can bring it down to day-to-day work and understand what a workflow is and the importance of communication and leadership skills. Our students in the Professional Science Master's Program are those who are really immersed in a business culture as much as they are in the research and the STEM field. And Paul's a great example of that, and he can talk a little bit more about some of those elements.
That's great. And it struck me the other day that it seems like only yesterday that we first started talking about the Big Data Initiative, the DSBA program, the PSM program within it. We already have alumni of the program. How long have we been doing the PSM?
Well, we have 3 PSMs. Okay. We have the first one was a Professional Science Master's in Bioinformatics. That launched in 2007. And the Health Informatics Professional Science Master's launched in 2012, the first class matriculated. And for the DSBA, the Professional Science Master's in Data Science and Business Analytics, that actually launched, the master's program launched this fall. So Paul is part of that first group coming through They are the guinea pigs in some ways. They
Pretty
are
exciting.
they are the pioneers in a lot of ways, and so it's an exciting group of students.
Well, let's hear the Paul Prae story and tell us what were and are you doing professionally, and when did the idea pop into your head that adding this course of study to your career is not only a cool thing to do, but it's a great opportunity here in Charlotte, and it fits. And is this just a sudden thing, or does everything build toward this?
This is something I've been thinking about for many years. Even throughout my undergrad, where I was studying computer science and cognitive science, I started looking into grad programs around the Southeast and some online programs across the nation. And I got hired by Microsoft right out of college, and there I started to see really scalable computing at its biggest. I mean, a lot of the clients I was working with were in Fortune 50, or from Fortune 50 companies. So I got to see big data firsthand there. And once I transitioned over to Red Ventures, working somewhere a little more agile, started to want to step up my game, I guess, a little bit. And I'm always studying nonstop, and even been taking a lot of the MOOC courses in the evenings. But I was looking for something that make sure I had a more strict curriculum. And then also, of course, a lot of big companies, if you want to get into research, I'd love to be a professor one day as well. A lot of them require having a master's degree. And so definitely wanted to look something more structured, as well as something locally. I could shake my hands with my professors and, of course, build that network.
Tell us a bit about Red Ventures.
And so right now, at Red Ventures, I'm a software engineer on the digital marketing side. So doing a lot of analytics and, tracking customer behavior and things online. And that is one of the bigger fields in big data in general, because we're lucky when we're working on websites and software in general, we can actually track things much easier and count things. Of course, in the big data field or data in general, we're having sensors now everywhere. With Google, of course, having them on our cars and things like that, and the Internet of Things, we're eventually going to be able to have data collected from everywhere. But Red Ventures, we kind of have the advantage right now where the beginning of our marketing funnel, a lot of it's online, so working with social media like Facebook and Twitter, as well as our websites that I work with a lot. So we're actually able to track, every click that every user makes, and so we know exactly what they're doing all the time, and have all their data from, the devices they're using and things like that. And so, it's coming in at an incredible pace. Yeah. And so it's this program like this is going to help me kind of keep up with that, because the industry is changing super fast. And I really do a crazy amount of reading, or I thought I did, until I started this program. And I think I've doubled the amount of reading I'm doing weekly, which is good to kind of, I guess, light that fire and keep me moving.
Is there a current standard by which you say, information about your field is obsolete in 6 months or 2 weeks, or
No. So I think there's right now kind of a lot of companies are sitting on their data, because for the most part, we have a lot of data we collect at my company. I've seen it at other companies across the board, and most of it's just sitting there. And we know, we have a lot of the low-hanging fruit has been captured, and we know how to use it. Looking at sales week over week and things like that. But right now, I think a lot of companies are holding on to their data because they're unsure if it's valuable or not.
Don't know what to do with it yet.
Yeah, maybe when it's more known, they'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's really neat.
And that's the amazing thing when we start talking about this field and the opportunities, again, whether you're in retail or you're in the financial sector or you're in healthcare or any of those. It's not just the new data that's flowing in from all of these sensors that we're wearing, the Fitbits, the information that's coming from our cars, that's coming from our online habits, the unstructured data that's coming from social media that's just pouring in. But it's also identifying the legacy data, and how do you cross-reference that? How do you bring that into a conversation with new data to get that insight about where needs and opportunities lie? And that allows us to really see some fascinating solutions. There is a bit of Big Brother in some of this information.
Well, there's a lot of Big Brother.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. Okay,
but as long as we like our Big Brother, and you seem like a pretty good guy, I think we're okay.
Absolutely.
But what about that ethical component? And is that part of the programs here at UNC Charlotte?
It is. We actually have a new course that will be offered next fall that's specifically focusing on the ethics of big data. And frankly, it's I think Paul can speak to this probably a little more than I can. In every course, there is this conversation about data, and it's a robust conversation because there is a responsibility. So an anecdote from one of our courses last fall, We had a traditional computer science student who was in a class one of the new data science classes, and there was a discussion about ethics, and the student raised an issue about that. Said, I'm not sure why we're talking about this. And the conversation evolved. The faculty member really was excited about it because it was that opening of the window that there's a lot of data that we have access to because there's a trust factor right now in the public. If there isn't an understanding of that trust factor and a responsibility, a sense of responsibility that's given to those who are using it, the data will disappear.
Yeah.
And we won't be able to use it. And so that's part of that conversation in the courses throughout the program is, what's the ethical use of data and where are the limitations? Where do you have to protect consumers?
Yeah, and Dr. Jared Hansen actually, he's written a lot of research papers on ethical behavior in companies and things like that. And he worked at Walmart corporate as a corporate buyer for 10 years or so. And it's been awesome seeing him, like within the first couple of weeks, they wanted to make sure they jumped right on the ethical questions right away. Proposed, open class discussions about certain cases that could make the company a lot of money, but kind of had those ethical judgments that had to be made. I think a lot of these companies, they're going to be paying attention to that too. My younger brother actually is a big proponent of paying attention to privacy and things like that, and he's always challenging things. And I think it's an important thing that all consumers are paying attention to and keeping an eye out for. And I think the companies that are catering to that and making sure they're respecting that kind of privacy are the ones that are going to win too, because the people are going to be more comfortable buying their products, and hopefully these companies too are just using that information to present better products, because mostly they just want to sell you something. So the worst case they're going to do is hopefully sell you something that you're interested in.
You've joined us for a step inside the game-changing initiative here at UNC Charlotte, and this is the kind of conversation that I think is just going to become increasingly what you hear on this campus, and as we talk about the many fascinating aspects of big data, and essentially, without hyping too much, a big data revolution that's going on around us. Just a real simple question from a layperson, but you as a professional in the field and as a student who's broadening your horizons here, it seems like the news of data exposure and data breaches of consumer data now are, they pop up at a rate, I don't know really what it is. To me, it seems like, it seems okay, we hear something once a month, but
Right.
it could be wrong. But the intensity of the response and the reaction, like lots of kinds of bad news that we start to get used to hearing, is it falling, and do you see any danger signs in the idea that, well, we're kind of becoming accustomed. There's news of a bank whose account information was out there, and if I'm affected, they'll call me, they'll tell me, okay. But
Right.
what do you think's
I
going
think
on?
in general, of course, when you hear about the big breaches, they're going to get a lot of attention, and they're not probably as common as maybe people might think or something. It's going to be very rare. But the good thing about it is, like, the fixes for those happen almost instantaneously. And once the problem's exposed in one place, it's just kind of the beauty of computing. They find a fix for it, it's also fixed everywhere. So a lot of these companies are using some of the same technologies and some open source technologies. If any of those are ever breached or there's any kind of vulnerabilities, the community works together to patch them. And I'm definitely at least under the impression that there's far more good people than bad. And so you kind of have an army of these data teams and security teams of these companies and working to fix problems. And it should just get stronger over time.
And the field in many ways provides the tool, or provides a potential solution, because it is big data which can be used to identify risk within systems, to look for behaviors that are outside the norm. That's one of those tools that we can reach out to and we can train folks. And so that's an important thing for us.
And there are a lot of standards in general in the industry. I don't work too much on the security side of things, but I know there are a lot of standards you can follow as a company just to make sure you're as safe as possible. And you can kind of stay up to date and get certified and things like that by people that do know it really well. And make sure the companies are safeguarding their data. And that'll be important, it seems. That's another conversation in the Big Data for Competitive Advantage course I'm in, which is, kind of like a survey of the field and the whole data management lifecycle and the problem solution process. And we're definitely touching on that in that course too.
Let's take a quick look at the web, and Josh, you tell me if I need to be on another page, but I think I'm where we want to be.
Yep.
And I bring this up. both for our UNC Charlotte community and then those who are beyond our community who are seeing this either live or on YouTube.
Yep.
What, who is the likeliest candidate to become a student?
Well,
in the program?
I would say we'll use the course that we were talking about, the Big Data for Competitive Advantage. This is an interdisciplinary program, and so the skill sets come from multiple areas. And one of the big things we hear from our partners, and we've got a fairly diverse national, regional, local, financial, energy, healthcare membership in that, is really what they're looking for, problem-solving skills. Are you a creative person? Are you somebody who can look at information from a little bit of a off-center point of view to see opportunities within it? The skill sets we draw from the College of Computing Informatics, we draw from the College of Business, we're drawing from our global information systems, our mapping programs as well. That's become an important area for us in the program. Having somebody who can be translational, who can stand between those different disciplines, who's comfortable being in an interdisciplinary environment, that's really one of those X-factor skills that's important for the program. A lot of things can be trained. You may not be a programmer. You're not going to be a programmer with our degree. You'll have exposure and you'll have a familiarity, and you may go deeper on your own with that. But our goal is to give you enough information to understand not only the different languages, but the different dialects that are being spoken around you, and to knit them together. And I'm hoping that's the experience
That's
that
like
you're getting.
perfect example. So, my team for my current course was basically randomly assembled. I mean, we tried to divide it up on skills, and my team is a kind of a good example of that. So I'm the only full-time software engineer that's on the team. We also have an accountant. We've got a financial business analyst. We've got a mathematician, and then we've got a program manager.
Wow.
So yeah. It's got people from all over, and I've been able to, I mean, we're sharing skills because like this course is going through kind of a little bit of everything, and so we get to shine at certain moments of the project.
Would there be room for an artist or a philosopher in the mix? Or
Well, I would hesitate to say no. The funny thing was, that was told to me several years ago, some of the best programmers out there are English majors because it's about syntax.
follows the patterns,
And when you're talking about this field, the artist and the philosopher are both dealing with logic from different perspectives. In terms of problem solving and working with different media, sure, that could be it. Now, is it an easy path necessarily? No, but that's what we're here for. So.
I don't know if it'll be easy for anybody though.
Yeah,
it really is
true.
just a lot of different disciplines coming together.
But that's the fun of it.
Yeah,
It's not
And
easy.
we hear this model again and again. Again, depending on the discipline, if you're in healthcare, bringing social workers along with programmers and the engineers, all of those folks together, that's where you get the solution, because the solution is very rarely a silver bullet. It's very rarely one thing. It's usually that combination. So.
Well, and before we have one final thought I wanted to throw your way, folks should know that on the web, analytics.uncc.edu is going to take them to what they need to know. And are there certain key times of the year that people should know about when it comes to hopping on board or applying and being accepted?
So at this point, we're looking at applications for fall 2015. The priority admission deadline will be April 1st for that. And we have information sessions that we're doing pretty much every month. And we have several folks who are available to talk, faculty, myself, students. That is a way to kind of network in and see whether or not there's a real fit.
And students come in cohorts then? And
Yep.
Okay.
So we have admissions in fall and in spring. And that's the structure.
That's great.
Yeah.
Being aware of the big data initiative here at UNC Charlotte over the past couple of years, I don't think there was ever a time when anybody thought as simplistically as to say, well, if we build it, they'll come, because it's already something that's in sync with what's going on in Charlotte. In fact, that's at the core of why it's working. So what is your experience as a student here to say, this makes sense in Charlotte, it works in Charlotte because of what I've come to know in Charlotte?
And so yeah, one of my favorite parts of Charlotte in general, we have the Packard Place here in town, which is where it's kind of an innovation hub. There's a lot of startups that are coming out of there, and incubators and things. And it's one thing this program has been good about in general is paying attention to the needs. I recently looked at the industry partnerships that are actually up on the website, and it's pretty impressive in general of what we have, and especially in the course. The courses, you're able to often use some of the technologies you want to use, but they also guide you along the ones that the the companies in town are using to make sure you're learning what you need to learn to provide immediate value.
Yeah.
And I would say in terms of the partners that we work with and the opportunities, there's a tendency to look at Charlotte and think only the financial sector, but we have major health analytics organizations here, major energy providers in this area.
And retail.
And retail,
Big time.
major
Advanced
retail.
manufacturing too.
And a growing advanced manufacturing sector that is taking off. And
What's missing to really do big data well?
well,
Isn't that all the bases? I mean,
with Google
Other than
Fiber,
government or
with Google Fiber
amazing.
coming in, I don't know what exactly is missing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to be, that's going to be steroids in terms of this growth market for us.
Yeah.
And what we also see is that so many companies are out there who are just realizing the value of that data that they're sitting on. They're realizing it's sitting there, I got to do something with it. And that has led to active outreach on their behalf as they say, I'm not quite sure what this big data thing is, but I know I have to be doing something with it, and I know I need talent, I know I need opportunities. And UNC Charlotte is in that great position to provide that and to network.
So we're
to
turning
run
out
stuff.
students who are not only going to say, I can do what you need, but you can say, I know what you need and I know what to do with that stuff over there and on that server you've kept in the closet all these years.
At least we know what questions to ask. If we don't know the answer, we maybe know a couple of questions we can ask.
Yeah, I mean, definitely a lot of companies right now, I think the one trend I'm noticing, I try to keep up with the job trends in general just to try to see, the movement of industries and things. And one thing I'm noticing is that people are hiring a lot of very senior level and kind of director levels of data scientists and things. I think it's because right now they're realizing that this can provide a lot of value, but they need to start building that core team and they need to start with leaders first. And I think this program's timing is just about perfect for that. So.
When are you done?
Yeah, I guess it'll be 2 to 3 years from now. So hopefully, I got to keep an aggressive pace to keep up with this. But yeah.
We'll have 3 more courses coming in, so that'll be,
Yeah, I'm excited. No. But yeah, keep it up. I think if I stay on track, it should be about 2 years.
About 2 years probably is right.
All right. Well, Paul Prae and Josh Hertel, thanks for joining us. And
Thanks for having us.
we will revisit this great topic here at our university from time to time in this format, and we'll keep going. So thanks a lot.